When you hear the word cult, there's a fair chance that the ones that come to your mind are Manson family, Heaven's Gate cult, or the People's Church. But what if I tell you that there's a cult much more horrific than these ones? And most people don't even know about it. A cult which involves murders, assaults, mutilations, and several other horrible forms of torture that one doesn't even dare to think of. A cult whose leader treated his followers as plastic dolls on whom he literally practiced his surgical skills. Yes, I know, it sounds horrible.
Watch them scramble, like ants in a colony. Watch them build my every desire and follow my every whim. I am their healer. I am their king. I am their God.
So in the late 70s, a cult started to form in the wilderness of Canada under the leadership of the cult leader, Roch Thériault, who called himself a messiah. The cult primarily consisted of women and children and was known as the Ant Hill Kids. But Roch was much more than a messiah. According to experts who have studied his case, Roch as a person was much more evil than cult leaders like Jim Jones or Charles Manson. But the question here is, how did a person like Roch succeeded in evading police for so long? What kind of activities were conducted in his cult? Why do people think of him as such an evil person? And if he was so evil, then why so many followers? And finally, was he ever caught? And if yes, then how? I'm going to look for these answers and much more. So why don't you join me as we take a detailed look at the story of a disturbing cult leader who liked to play surgeon and mutilate his followers. Now before moving on, let's see who Roch was. Born in 1947 in Saguenay, Quebec, Roch Thériault grew up in a deeply religious family. As a child, he was extremely genius, but his over-the-top interest in religion resulted in him getting dropped out of school just in 7th grade. After this, he started studying religion more and developed a fascination with the Old Testament. By his 20s, Thériault had transformed from a pious young man into a charismatic leader who influenced a lot of people around him, only with his words.
He would walk into a bar and have people in stitches. He was a prankster. He was kind of a natural-born showman, I suppose you could say. A lot of people became convinced, including professionals, psychologists, social workers, psychiatrists, that Roch was a brilliant and kindly man of the Bible, who only meant good.
So Roch was an energetic young man. He knew what to say to people and when to say it. But there was another side to him too. You see, like many other cult leaders, he too had a core belief. And in this case, he believed that the end of the world is near. And it's only him who can save the ordinary people from this upcoming apocalypse. Roch's journey into the world of cult leadership began in the year 1970s. In the beginning, he joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church, where he quickly made an impression with his unique personality. However, his radical and strong beliefs soon put him at odds with the church, which led to his excommunication. Now, if we see, at this point, most people would have changed their path completely, but not Roch. Roch used this as an opportunity to form his very own sect. In 1977, Roch established the Ant Hill Kids, a group or cult, whatever you want to call it, which was named for the hardworking and cooperative nature of ants, which Roch really admired. His followers were drawn to his magnetic personality and promises of a utopian and more organic lifestyle. You see, at first, this cult was all about communal living, a way of life that was free from the corruption of modern society. And his followers actually believed that they were building a paradise on earth. And this was the major reason why people started following him.
If you ever meet a man who will promise you, the heaven on earth, and you think that you will live the most beautiful life, you will reach a nirvana on earth, and you say to yourself, it's impossible, it's too beautiful to be true. Well, yeah.
The group initially settled in Saint-Emery, Quebec, where they lived off the land, growing their own food and constructing their own buildings. But in 1978, he decided to move towards further wilderness.
And he packed up all of his meager belongings and all of his sort of ragtag band of young people and headed off into a remote part of the Gaspé Peninsula, and out of nothing built a big log cabin large enough for about a dozen people.
In 1984, the group relocated once again to a new site close to Burnt River. Roch, a leader, became a god. Now, Roch's leadership style was a strange blend of obedience and tyranny. He emphasized the importance of hard work, much like ants, and demanded total obedience. Because of this strong emphasis on hard work, all people of his community worked almost all day with breaks in between to listen to sermons given by Roch.
So we were living in tents and getting up very early and to build. And to build very fast because, the Gaspésian winters are very harsh and they arrive quite early also.
They were like a help you out type of group, non-smoking organization and therapeutic, healing and like a spiritual group.
Healing, therapeutic, teamwork. These were the kind of words that were associated with Roch Thériault and his Ant Hill kids. But unfortunately, this idealistic world was quite short-lived. With more and more people joining his group, Roch began to see himself as a messianic figure, chosen by God to lead his people through the apocalypse. His teachings started to become more weird, and he started imposing strict rules on his followers, actually even trying to control every aspect of their lives, from their diet to even their sexual relations.
So we were physically breaking down.
People started to throw around a word like a cult.
This was the time when the Ant Hill kids actually turned into a cult.
They all seem to be doing exactly what he says and only what he says.
It's sexual also control. He has a control on sexual life also.
So Roch's increased power was accompanied by heavy drinking, and at this point, he had turned into an actual tyrant. You see, when the apocalypse didn't happen, so some people around Roch started to question his abilities. So in order to maintain the obedience, Roch did what almost every tyrant in this world's history has done: increased and more brutal punishments.
He might take that child, hold it up against a tree trunk and drive in knives on the clothes of the child to pin it against the tree, and then go to the mother of that child and say, I want you to throw these rocks at your children. And if she refused to do it, he would threaten to hurt the child even worse.
Yes, this was Roch's way to turn a mischievous child into an obedient one. But this wasn't all. Beating, starvation, and public humiliation became quite common. And to make matters worse, he isolated his followers from the outside world, convincing them that he was their only link to salvation. Some of his punishments were extremely violent and disturbing, including forcing his followers to break their own legs with sledgehammers, sit on lit stoves, shoot each other in the shoulder, and eat dead mice and faces. Sometimes he would even ask a follower to cut off another follower's toes with wire cutters to prove their loyalty to him. But despite all this, the most disturbing and evil aspect of Roch's control was his use of medical procedures. So what he was doing, without any formal training, he will perform crude surgeries on his followers without anesthesia, or sometimes using alcohol as an anesthesia. It's actually right to say, because of these procedures, it's right to say that most of these procedures resulted in either death or permanent loss of body parts for his followers.
Apparently the baby that he was looking after, one of them, would not stop crying. Cried and cried and cried. And he beat this child to make it stop crying. Well, he beat it into a coma. And when Roch and the women came back, I don't know what they did to him, but Roch's decision on how to make this baby better was to circumcise him.
Roch justified these acts as a way for their purification, but obviously they were just a means of maintaining his dominance and instilling fear.
He really thought that he was gifted, that God gifted him, of that ability to do operations, to do surgeries. But when Roch, played the doctor, he was Frankenstein.
Now, there's no doubt that all these punishments and surgeries were pretty huge crimes. But Roch's biggest crime took place in 1989, when he killed one of his followers. When follower Solange Boillard came with a complaint of an upset stomach, Roch decided to perform another amateur surgery without any anesthesia. He laid her naked on a table and punched her right in the stomach. This was followed by forcing a plastic tube into her rectum to perform a crude enema. After this, he cut open her abdomen with a knife and ripped out part of her intestines with his bare hands. Roch then asked another member, Gabrielle Lavalley, to stitch her up using needle and thread. Boillard died the next day from the damage inflicted by the procedures. But Roch didn't stop here. He claimed that he could resurrect her, so he made his followers see off the cap of Boillard's skull and he ejaculated onto her brain. When Boillard did not return to her life, her corpse was buried a short distance from the Ant Hills Kids Commune. I know, if this isn't the definition of pure evil, then I don't know what it is. When the followers weren't getting punished or listening to his sermons, their usual day consisted of work, and more work. Life within the Ant Hills Kids Commune was quite tiring. Followers worked from dawn to dusk, performing hard labor to keep the community running. Women were especially subjected to sexual abuse and forced pregnancies. In order to maintain a specific number in his community and increase the number of people that actually follow him, Roch impregnated at least 9 girls out of his followers and fathered over 20 children. While many of his followers blindly followed him, there were some who started to become skeptical as the time passed and with Roch's increasing cruelty. So let's find out which one was the breaking point for this cult. The Ant Hill Kids cult took a horrific turn in the late 1980s. Now, Gabrielle Lavalley was a member of Roch's cult. Over the past couple of years, she had tried multiple times to leave the cult or run away. But each time she failed, and as a result, she got severe punishments. Over the years, she had suffered welding torch burns to her genitals, 8 of her teeth were forcibly removed, and even parts of her breast was cut off. However, in 1989, after several failed attempts, Gabrielle finally managed to escape and informed the authorities of the crimes Roch was committing. Her testimony to the authorities exposed the true horror of life within the Ant Hill Kids Commune, and they set the wheels in motion for the downfall of Roch Thériault. In 1989, police raided the Ant Hills Kids Commune, arresting Thériault and several of his close associates. The details that emerged during the investigation shocked the entire nation. Now, law enforcement authorities had their concerns about Roch and his commune even before, but they couldn't do anything as it was officially registered as a church. However, Gabrielle's testimony changed everything. Thériault was charged with numerous crimes, including assault and sexual abuse. When the investigation moved further, it was revealed that Roch had killed one of his followers named Solange Boillard. As a result, in 1993, he was sentenced to life in prison without any possibility of parole when he pleaded guilty for the murder. On one hand, it revealed the shocking extent of Roch's brutality, and on the other hand, it also highlighted the psychological manipulation that kept his followers under his control for so long. Many former members struggled to rebuild their lives, dealing with the physical and emotional scars left by their time in the commune. On February 26, 2011, at the age of 63, Roch Thériault was found dead, close to his cell at Dorchester Penitentiary. Investigation revealed that a fellow cellmate named Matthew Gerard MacDonald was responsible for his death, and that's how the chapter of Roch Thériault, aka the evilest man of Canadian history, came to an end.
Now people assume, well, this is all well planned out. This is not planned out. You see, that's the whole thing that people sometimes forget, is they think that this is, all planned out. But it's a process that goes on.
As we move towards the end of this haunting tale, make sure that you take a keen look around you for people who have the ability to change the lives of several people, for better or for worse. Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.